What's going on, guys? This is jpeg Woodworking. My name is Jeremy, and today I'm going to show you how to create an American flag with a 3D carved logo inlay. Now, this is something that I think looks really cool as the logo stands proud from the flag. This is done for a veteran buddy of mine who has a detailing business and wanted to put this flag in the front room or waiting area of his business. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I set everything up on the computer, and then we'll cut it out on the CNC and show you how I got it all put together. But first, I want to talk about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is I2R CNC. You can check these guys out at i2rcnc.com. I have an I2R8, the 24 by 48 inch cutting area, and love this machine. This is one of the tools in my shop that runs almost nonstop. It is a smaller footprint or smaller format CNC. So if you have a smaller garage or a smaller workshop like I do, this works great. So go check those guys out, hit them up, let them know I sent you, and they will hook you up with anything you need. They are great with customer service and helping you get everything you need for your specific needs for a CNC. So with that being said, let's jump on the computer and get going. All right, guys, so let's open up Vectric Aspire, and this will be the program we use to create the flag as well as the 3D toolpaths. The first thing you want to do is create a new file up here in the top left-hand corner, and before you hit create a new file, you need to press Control and Shift at the same time and then click Create New File. Now, what this will do is you won't see a visible change right here in your job setup menu, but you will be able to go down here to model resolution, and it will give you the option for 50%, or excuse me, maximum. Now, this is 50% slower. Now, what this means is that during your 3D rendering mode, your computer will be running a bit slower, and it will take longer for it to render the 3D model, but you will have much higher resolution, and if there's any kind of issues with a draft or a bevel or anything like that, you will be able to spot those issues better at the maximum resolution. So again, you don't have to do this, but I do prefer doing it this way because it gives you so much resolution in your setup and in your 3D modeling that you can see any issues that you have. Now, you need to set up your job setup or your job size. So for this, one thing I want to say is, as you can see here, my datum point or my XY0 is in the lower left-hand corner. Now on my machine, I would normally set this up with our material. It's going to be a 30 by 16. Normally, I would set this up vertically. So it would be set up similar to this. Now, as you can see, this puts my XY datum point at the lower left-hand corner with the flag running the length of the bed of my machine due to me having a 24 by 48 inch cutting area. So I have 48 inches of travel in the Y axis direction and 24 inches of travel in the X. Now, this is how I normally build these. For this particular tutorial, I'm not going to do that. The reason for that is it's so much easier for you to see what is going on in the tutorial if I do this with it reversed. So I'm actually going to do my width as 30 inches and my height as 16. Now again, if your machine cannot accept these parameters or accept this layout, then just keep that in mind because you will have to rotate this 90 degrees, and it's easier for me to build it that way, but I want to show you guys exactly how I do this and make it visually the easiest to see. So that's just something to keep in mind. The next thing of this is our material is going to be 1 inch thick, and I want to go off of the machine bed for my Z-axis 0. Now what this is going to do is it's going to have you set your Z-axis 0 to the machine bed. This is important when you're doing 3D work because while you're doing 3D cuts, if a bit breaks or if you need to change bits or anything and you need to reset your Z-axis 0, then odds are you're not going to have a standard height or regular material height area to consistently go off of. So if you go off of the machine bed, it gives you a consistent height. Just make sure to get a good accurate measurement of your thickness. But for this one and this particular model, having it as 1 inch is just fine. This is just kind of representative and makes it easier for you to see. Like I said before, the XY datum position is going to be in the lower left-hand corner. I use this because with my machine, this is set up to where I have stops on the side and the end. It allows me for a consistent setup every single time to this position. I'm going off inches. As said before, modeling resolution is at maximum, and you can do the appearance however you like. I just leave it as what it is. It doesn't matter. So after that, you're going to hit OK. And there is our material setup. So first thing you need to do is to create your flag. Now, you can create it from scratch and all that stuff, and it works just fine, but I find it easy to just take a JPEG and do a bitmap trace on the flag here, and then we'll have to touch up some things like the stars, but I'll show you guys how to do that. So I want to go into where I have my flag, and I want to pull my flag out to here, and then I'm going to maximize the flag to the material setup. So my flag is going to be set up to here and go to a width of 30 inches and a height of 16. Now, if you're doing a flag that needs to be perfect as far as proportions and things like that, you might want to create it from scratch, but I find this to be the easiest, and it looks just fine to me. Once you get that created, I go ahead and go to the material alignment tool and align this at centered on the material. From here, you go over and go to bitmap trace, which is this little bird looking icon here. You click bitmap trace, and what this will do is this will trace a bitmap from this JPEG image, and you can adjust the threshold of your colors or your black and white. It's much easier for black and white, but you can choose color and choose different colors if you need. But for this particular setup, black and white is just fine. And as you can see, when you move the threshold back and forth, it changes how much of the black or the colors or whatever it picks up. So near max here gives me a pretty nice set of stars and a really nice clean set of stripes. Also, your corner fit will allow for things like pixel dilation and things like that, and it will just give you a little bit of a cleaner bitmap trace. Now, for this particular one, we're going to be remaking these stars because I don't like these. And again, this is just the quickest way I have found to do it. So if we preview this, as you can see, this does work well, but there are some strange little shapes with the stars. But the stripes look really nice. So we're going to hit apply, escape, or close, and then we're going to go out and just move this JPEG image off and leave the vectors here. So from here, what you want to do is, for my particular setup on this exact size, the way I do this is to retrace a new star. So you'll go here and actually go to the center of this star. As you can see, the program pops to center there, and then you're just going to expand the star until it matches that size. And what that's going to do is it's going to get, and you can hit escape to escape out of that, and it's going to give you a perfectly clean star. So from there, what I do is ungroup these objects, because when you created a vector from your JPEG, it will group all the objects together. So if I back out a little bit and click here, as you can see, everything here gets selected. So if you ungroup these objects onto their original layers, that will break down your stars and your stripes into the individual vectors. So what I do from there is do that, and then just get rid of these stars, because we're going to re-offset and do everything that way. and you can go in and click the other one and delete it. And now you have a nice, clean starting star to start with. Again, you can create the stars from scratch, but I find this the easiest when I'm just trying to keep everything laid out really nice, and it makes it really quick for doing that. So from there, what you're going to do is go to your Create Linear Array and click on your star. And from there, what you're going to want is you want 9 rows and 6 columns. You want to offset these from your x-axis, which is left to right, at a little bit of right around double the size. That will put them in a nice spacing in the x direction, and you want to offset them at right at the same as what they are normally in the y direction. So in this case, we're going to be doing this one as offsetting it as in the y direction 0.9514. Oops. 514, and that is our, as you can see here, that's what our y is, and that's going to give us this. And then what we're going to do is we're also going to offset this by 1, and that's our x. So that should give us -1. That will actually drop them down instead of make them go vertically, and this should give us a really nice array of stars. There we go. So another thing you want to do from here is you actually have 54 stars due to having 9 rows and 6 columns. So these 4 stars here, you can just delete. That will give us our 50 stars. They're nice and laid out and centered within our star area here, and that's a really good starting point. So now we're going to close this out. The next thing we want to do is take all of our stripes here, and what I want to do is bring these a little out, just a hair past the end. What this will do is it'll cut the stripes off the edge of the material and give you a nice clean cut. And I want to do this in both areas, but these 3 stripes here are the only ones I want to go off of. It doesn't matter how much you want to go off. You can adjust these and be really technical, but for me, I don't need to do that. I find that going off just enough to where you can see, I guess, daylight here, I guess you would call it, is just fine, because your bit is going to actually trace out this and come out past the edge of your material and not leave a lip here. So there is our flag set up. What I want to do with this also is I want to add these 2 particular layers. So what I want to do is take and group all of my stars and then move them to layer, create new layer, stars. Oops. Hit OK. And then I want to do the same thing here for the stripes, but I'm not going to group them just yet. So what I want to do here is move these to layer, new layer, stripes. And what this will do is it'll just allow you to be able to go to your layers tab, and if you need to select things or work on certain objects without messing with any of the others, you can just cut these on and off. They are still there. They are just not visible for you to select. So after this, now what I want to do is I want to do our logo. Now, I want my logo to be about 13 inches. And what that's going to do is that's going to give us a nice size logo here in the stripes, and then we're going to work around it from there. So what I want to do is the logo itself will be about 13 inches. So I'm going to create a circle that has a diameter of 13.25, so 13.25 inches, and we're going to just create that here. And then from there, we're going to close that out, and we're going to go over here to the alignment, and I want to align this due to our flag. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. Our flag is actually laid out to the material size. So we can use our material size here, and I want to center this in the up and down direction. So there's our centered up and down. So what you can do from here to line up your circle in the left and right position or in your X axis is you want to go over here and grab your measuring tool and then click right there on the corner of this stripe and then just go to the edge of your material here. So it's putting us at 17.9 inches, and you can escape out of that. Just hit escape and then go to your calculator, and as you can see I have it in here, you will do 17.9 minus 13.25, which is the size of our circle. That will give us 4.65. And from there you want to divide that by 2. So 2.325. So what I like to do is to go here, select your circle, go back to your alignment tool and align this all the way over, or sorry, I skipped a step, that was my fault. So the first thing I want to do is you will need a rectangle, a rectangle for your base of the 3D model, and that will cover just your material size. So start at one corner and trace this rectangle for your base, and we're going to close that out. Now to align your X and Y, you're going to leave this rectangle selected and then select your circle and go to your alignment tool. And then I want to align the edge of the circle to the inside edge. To the inside edge of this rectangle. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the circle and then the rectangle. I had that backwards a second ago. And then we're going to hit the inside edge on the right hand side. Now what that does is put the circle to the right hand inside edge or right hand side of the X axis of that rectangle that is around the edge of our material. And as we knew before, we need 2.325 inches from this edge to give us perfectly centered on this area of our stripes. So what we're going to do from there is close that out, and we're going to go to Move Object, and we're going to go to the X position relative to where it is, and we're going to go negative 2. Make sure I've got my 2.325. I always double check. 325. Enter. And that brings, make sure it's just the circle selected. And go negative 2.325. And that's going to bring our circle nice and centered into all of these. So now what you can do also is we're going to trim out all of the stripes in this. Now you can do this with the scissors tool and just cut through all these and pretty much do it this way, but it takes so much longer to do that. What I like to do is to select all of the stripes within the circle and then select your circle and then go over here to the trim tool, clear inside boundary, and that will clear out your circle. And not only that, it will also create a closed vector with all of your stripes. Now, one more thing I'd like to say that I like to do is I like to take my circle from there and offset a circle in about 1/10 of an inch or however small. Like we said, we made this 1/4 inch larger than what our actual inlay, our actual logo was going to be. So what we're going to do from there is we're going to go over to the offset tool, and I want to bring this in 1/8 of an inch. And if we hit offset inwards, there now, you can delete this outer circle. There now is our circle that will house our logo. So the flag is pretty much set up now. Alright, so now we have our entire flag set up. So now this will be a little different in the way that our 3D logo is not going to be cut in this setup. We're actually going to have to make another complete setup and cut the 3D logo by itself, as it will be cut out as an inlay. Now you can do this where this is one entire 3D cut and it would look really nice, but to be honest, I wanted these to be standard cuts for this situation, and this be out of a separate material that I can paint like an MDF. So with that being said, this is set up, and we're going to go ahead and set up our tool paths for the flag. So we're going to open up our tool paths tab, and what I want to do is I want to select the stars first and do a V-carve on the stars. Now I will be using a 90-degree V-bit, and I want to just do these to the normal V-carve depth. That's just fine. I'm going to label these as 90V, which indicates what bit I will be using, stars. And we're going to go to calculate, and that's going to give us our stars there. You can preview that and see it's a nice cut, a nice clean look for the stars. For the stripes, I want to do the stripes a little different, as I will be doing those as a pocket. Now I'm going to be doing the stripes and this outer circle as a pocket. Now what this is going to do is give me a pocket to inlay our MDF 3D carving into. So for that, we're going to go to the pocket toolpath after selecting the stripes and the circle, and we're going to use I'm going to use a 1/4 inch end mill. This will be running at a spindle speed of about 17,000 RPMs at about 100 inches per minute feed rate, and we're going to hit OK. Don't mind that. That's just my particular program, as it didn't save that, as I only changed the spindle speeds for this particular cut. As something I need to go in and do later, is change that actually in the tool database. Anyway, so with these cut, we're going to do this as 250 EM, which is a 2.5 end mill or 1/4 inch end mill, stripes and logo pocket. So what this is going to do is this is going to pocket out this circle here. And let me go back into, sorry about this, the cut depth, excuse me, I want to be a 1/4 of an inch, so 0.25, and that's going to put our cut depth for this as a 1/4 of an inch deep into our material. So what this will do is this will actually cut our really nice stripes, as well as cut out the pocket, which we will install the inlay into. So there is the body of the flag. Now I will say that for the stripes, one thing I did forget to do is this particular stripe, this one at top, I want to bring it up just a little higher, kind of like we did with the end pieces. And what that will do is allow the bit to go off of the material and cut off that last shaving of material. We want to do this on both top and bottom. And then we'll just recalculate all and go back to our preview, excuse me. And as you can see, if I turn the toolpaths off, before we did that, it left this lip here along the top edge of the material and along the bottom edge here. So if we redo this, we reset our preview and then preview all toolpaths, now we don't have that issue. It actually cut that out all the way around. Everything is nice and clean. So there is our flag body, and from there we're just going to save our toolpaths. For this, we're going to be using the Mach. Get down here in our menu. Mach 2.3 arcs millimeter. And this is what I use normally for things like this. We're going to select our 90-degree V-bit. And we're going to save the toolpath. Go to CNC files, flags. We're going to create a new file. logo flag. And this is going to be cut 1 of our flag. Hit save, and then we're going to repeat this process for the end mill cut or the stripes and the pocket. Save toolpaths and cut 2. Now this is just helps me keep my cuts in order when I'm doing multiples. For this particular one, you don't have to cut one in front of the other. They can be cut in either order. But I find that the easiest way to keep things in order. All right, so now we have that, and we're going to save this file as logo flag and A2D logo flag. So that will save this flag as this cut. If I ever need to come back and make another one similar, I can do this. Or if I find someone that has a different logo or anything, I can now use this layout and not have to rebuild it. Alright guys, now that we have the flag made up and the base of that made up and ready to go, I want to go ahead and show you how I designed the 3D cutout for the logo. Now, I am doing this as a separate file just because you can cut the flag and the logo as one piece, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be able to cut the flag out of MDF and paint it so I could distress it and give it a certain look. And the rest of the flag will be Sugibond and burnt, and I didn't want to have to do that to the MDF section of the flag. Also, I wanted to keep my cut times kind of lower, and cutting out just the logo in 3D and not having to do the rest of the flag that way seemed like a really good way to go, as well as if there's ever any issues, it is a separate piece technically. So just like with the flag, I want to start this one and create a new file holding Control and Shift as I click the Create New File. And this is going to allow me, just like with the flag, to use the maximum resolution. And this one is going to be a little different in that it's going to be a 16-inch square piece of MDF that is 3/4 of an inch thick. Now, for this particular one, my particular material was exactly, I believe, 0.74 inches thick, but 3/4 of an inch thick will do for this tutorial to show you how to do this. Just like with the flag, we're going to go off the machine bed for the Z axis 0, and the X and Y axis is going to be zeroed at the lower left hand corner. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK for that, and there's our material. So just like with the flag, I'm going to be using a JPEG of the logo I am doing. So this is my friend's logo. And what I'm going to do is actually do just like with the flag. We're going to do a bitmap trace. So go over here and trace bitmap. And I'm going to zoom in and kind of alter the threshold a little bit, trying to get a nice smooth edge as best I can. Again, the loose will be, as far as your corner fit, will be a little looser. I kind of do that just so it has nice smooth edges and it doesn't bounce on the pixels too much. If you tighten it up too much, it can be a little jagged. So that looks pretty good. And we'll go ahead and apply that and then close out the trace bitmap. And then I want to remove this off of my material. And there are the vectors. So what I want to do now is I want to center this on our material. So using the adjustment tool and clicking align to material center, and then hit escape, and that will close that out. And then I also want to adjust the size of this. Now on our previous flag, we removed this circle here, this outer edge of the logo. But for this, I want to keep this because I want this as a lip around the outside. It will give a nice bit of depth and look really nice. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to close this out. We're going to resize this entire thing to 12.73 is what I'm going to go to. Our circle for our pocket that this will be applied in is 12.75. Having this cut down to a 12.73 will give us a little bit of wiggle room so it can fit nice and snug inside that pocket, but it will go down in there without too much trouble. So now what I want to do is I want to close this out, and I also want to add a rectangle around the edge of the material. This will be for the base when we start modeling. Now with that down, it's simply go to the draw rectangle tool and click on this upper right hand corner, one of the corners, and drag to the opposite corner diagonal from it, and it will give you your rectangle or your square. Now also what I want to do is I want to select this and I want to ungroup these objects back to their original layers. And from there, there's a couple of things I need to modify. One is these two little half moon shapes. Now, usually when you're doing a logo for a customer or something like that, you don't want to alter their logo at all. But these are only colors. These are not an actual shape in the design of his logo. So removing these will not matter when we do a 3D path. Those were just white coloring for shading to give depth to the 2D image that was his logo. Another thing that I want to do is I want to take this outer circle here and I want to create an offset circle of about 1/2 inch. So 0.5 offset outwards, hit offset or enter. And that's going to bring out this circle. Now I'll show you what this is for in just a little bit. This is going to be used as a vector boundary for our 3D toolpath, just so you don't wind up trying to cut this entire thing right here, your entire thing of material, and taking up way too much time. So with that circle done, we're going to go back to here, and what I want to do is go to the modeling toolpath. Want to go up here and create shapes. Now the first shape I want to create is this outer rectangle. This is going to be our base. So in the name of the component, we're going to type in base. It's going to be 1/4 inch thick of base. I want it flat and I want it to add to the previous component. And we're going to hit apply. It'll take it a second to do its calculations, and there we go. We have a 1/4 inch flat base. Now, next you want to start a new component. It will take it just a second. Now remember, everything's going to be moving a little bit slower because you're working off that maximum resolution, but that's just fine. So the next shape I want to do is this band. This band here will be your outer border for your logo, and this is going to be the outer band. Just gonna name it band so that it is, we have this as a separate component. I want this to have, like the rest of the logo, it will be a circular path or curved tool path, giving it a little bit of a curved shape on the top. And we'll go with the 34.2 degree angle that's already on there. And we'll click apply. It'll take it a second, and as you can see on the 3D model, now we have that outer border. Now we're going to go back to the 2D view, and I want to start a new component. And this will actually be the logo itself, the body of the logo. So I want all of the components of the body of the logo selected. Now you want to select all of the interior components. The computer will do its deal, and the program will decide that it needs to go inside of these, and this will lift the logo out of the material. So it will cut away all of the material that is not standing proud. It will leave the logo standing proud, and I want to leave this as an added component to the previous layer, and we're going to put this one as logo. Again, this was going to be a circular or curved path, same thing of 34.2 degrees as our band. And I thought this would look nice just because most cars and things like that are not flat. So having a little bit of kind of a bubbled type shape I thought would look really nice. So go ahead and hit apply. And it will think, and there it is. So there is our logo. All right, so we have one other thing that I need to do for this, and it is to allow us to cut this out afterwards. There like to be two tool paths created. So what we're going to do is, for the next modeling section, what we're going to do is we're going to close that out. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. So as you can see over here, I accidentally closed that out and did not hit apply and save. So the band is saved, but we didn't save the logo. So we're going to go back up and just recreate that. No big deal. Just reselect everything like before. Label it logo. And apply. And there we go. So if you click on anything else in here and it transfers over to a different vector before you exit out of this or start a new component, it will remove all of this and you'll have to redo that layer like that. But that's no big deal. So now we can close that out, and now we have our logo, our band, and our base. So if we go back to our 3D view, that looks pretty nice. So from here, what I want to do is add a small draft. And what this will do is all of these edges here are perfectly vertical. But if we add a small draft, it is kind of like a bevel. It softens these edges just a little bit. I don't need much of a draft for anything like this. I'm going to go with the 10 degree and we'll hit apply and just see how that looks. It'll take it a minute to do the calculations and show up your 3D view. But this is another reason why having your program at the maximum resolution makes a big difference. So as you can see, it bevels these just a hair, and that looks really nice. It's a really clean look, and I like that a lot. So we're going to close that out. Now from here, what I want to do is I want to select all of the portions of my model here in level 1. Now, this is a step I take in case I want to come back and change this later on and don't want to have to fight, but want to keep this as this layer here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these. You can click either the top or the bottom level or layer, and then hold shift and click the other end, and it will select all of them. And what I want to do is I want to duplicate these, which it will take the computer just a second. While it's doing its thinking. Okay, and I also want to insert a new level, and I want to take these duplicates of what we just created and put them into the upper level, into level 2. And then from there we can turn off level 1. What this will allow you to do is, if you need to make any adjustments, or if anything happens and you want to go back to just this, just exactly like this is, this allows you to remove this level 2 and go back to the level 1, and you still have this. But if you have this turned off, it's only reading whatever level is turned on. And just like with most things like this, if you stack these in a certain order, it could change up how it's layered. Your base is on bottom, and the band logo and model draft are on top, which means they will be on the top of your base like this. So I like the way that looks. I want to add a smoothing filter. So what this will do, it will smooth off the logo. It will have to be baked, and you just hit OK. And it will open up the smoothing components to smooth out the components and give you a really nice smooth finish. I don't adjust this very often. I see no reason to. I think that looks absolutely awesome. So to me, that's just fine. I'm going to hit OK. And that's another reason for going to a different level, is that these have to be baked together to do the smoothing of all these components. So having this on a different level, if something needs to be changed, you could then turn this level off or remove these and go back, change it in the first level, and then repeat that process, or however you need to. It just gives you a saved point on just your logo for this. All right, so I really like how that looks. I think that's going to work perfect. So now what I want to do is go back to my 2D view, and I have one more thing I want to add. I'm going to go to the drawing. Actually, I take that back. We'll just do this as a different toolpath. So what we'll do is, instead of adding a secondary circle, I want to open up my toolpaths. And the first thing I want to run on all of this is I want to run a finishing 3D toolpath. Now, some people will tell you to do a roughing toolpath. For this one, I will, just so you can see the process, but I have gotten to where on a lot of them, I don't do a roughing toolpath unless it's extremely hard woods. A 3D path, one, it saves you time, and two, you don't necessarily need the roughing pass for most 3D finishes. But that's kind of preference. So what I'm going to do for the first one is a roughing pass with a 1/4 inch end mill, and what that's going to do is it's going to remove all the bulk excess material that you don't need. And then what I want to do here, the reason we did this outer circle out here that is a 1/2 inch outside of our logo is our machining limit boundary. I want to select the selected vectors, and then I'm going to bring this boundary offset to a 0.1. So it's going to go to this boundary and 0.1 past for your 3D cut. That way you ensure that the entire logo has been completely done and cut out, but it doesn't cut from this outer circle out to the border of your material. Everything else I leave pretty standard. The roughing strategy is a raster cut, which starts in the center and works its way out. And that's pretty much it. We're going to do this as the roughing cut. 3D roughing cut with a 250 end mill, which is your 1/4 inch end mill. And we're going to go ahead and calculate that. Oh, sorry. Well, for your vector to be selected, you need to select the outer vector circle, and that will be your boundary. So now you can hit calculate. And it will, like I said, it will take the computer just a minute or two to calculate this, just because you're using a extremely high resolution model. And depending on your computer, it might take a few minutes. If you're doing this on a laptop or something, it does take a few minutes more. All right, so now we're going to play through this cut. So there is what it will look like after it is rough cut. So it will rough cut most of the material away, and that's fine. That will get rid of a lot of the material. Now again, you don't have to do a roughing cut on most things. You can go straight to a finishing cut, but for this one, and just kind of purposes of showing how to do this, I went ahead and I made the roughing cut toolpath, and I also cut a roughing pass into the MDF. Alright, so now we're going to go back to our toolpath tab, and we're going to do a finishing toolpath. Now I'm going to be using a 0.0625 end mill, or a ball nose bit, which is this one right here. Just like on everything else, check your spindle speeds. I need to actually change these within the tool database. I just haven't got around to it. So for this one, we're going to actually do this one at 18,000 RPM, and I want a feed rate of about 80 inches a minute. And on my machine with this bit, it seems to work just fine. And that was just a pop-up box saying that it didn't save those changes to the toolpath, to the tool database. It's just for this cut. And just like with the other, I want to go to the selected vectors machining limit boundary, to the same outer circle here. And this will cover everything that was covered in the roughing pass. And again, we're going to do a offset. The roughing pass was done as a raster. I want to do this one as an offset. I just like how this runs better. To me, it runs smoother. And I wind up with better, cleaner cuts. You don't have vertical lines from doing a raster style cut. So for this, it's going to be the finish cut. And we're going to be using a 0.0625 ball nosed bit. Now this will tell you what bit to use and what cut you are on. So we're going to go ahead and calculate that. And this will take even longer than the roughing pass, as you're using an extremely small bit here. Now you can get in this and play a little bit with your step over rates and things like that to get an even cleaner finish, but it will highly affect your cutting times. This is going to take, I believe, a couple hours to cut, 2.5 hours. But this is kind of a larger piece. It's not super fine detail, but there's a good bit of material to cover and cut away. And you can also adjust your feed rates and things like that. I could probably run this at 100 inches per minute, but I found with my machine and this ball nose bit, 80 inches a minute runs pretty quick, and it comes out really well. It gives a really nice smooth finish with almost no sanding needed of any kind. So when this comes up, we'll be able to preview the toolpath. Give this 1 second. Alright, so now it's showing this path. Now this is how it's going to look on your UC CNC once you start cutting. It looks like it's the same, but if you can see this, there's different colors in here, and that's the different depths that it does for the toolpath. So we're going to go ahead and preview that. And as you can see, it starts in the center and works its way out and just makes that smooth as silk. Alright, so now both those cuts have been done and are ready to go. There's one final cut that I want to do, and that is going to be a profile toolpath using a 1/4 inch end mill, and our material is 3/4 inch, so I'm going to put our material cut depth as a 0.77. This is a 2/1000 of an inch over what we have to ensure going all the way through. I'm not going to put any tabs. I have found when doing MDF, if you do this and you slow the machine down just a little bit, you don't really need tabs for this. Like, as long as you're not blasting through the material and cutting really heavy cut depths, it doesn't really move. So I'm not going to add any tabs. I am going to adjust my feed rates and spindle speeds. Again, you should have these set in your toolpath, but I haven't had a spire too long, and I keep forgetting to go in and do it. So I'm going to a 17,000 RPM spindle speed and a feed rate of 100 inches per minute and a plunge rate of 30 inches per minute with a maximum cut depth of 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to go ahead and hit apply. Same thing as before. This changed it here but didn't save that to the toolpath in the registry. And we're going to say this is a 250 end mill outer cut. Let's do it this way. Logo cut out. All right, so what I want to do is I want this to be on this second inner circle. So the outer circle of your toolpath. And then I want to do this on the outside. So your machine vectors, the inside of the bit will walk around the outside of this circle. So what this is going to do is this is just telling you it's going to cut through the material. This will cut the logo out perfectly along that lifted area that we have for our border, and this will allow it to drop into that pocket on the flag perfectly. So if we preview this path, there it is. As you can see, it cuts it out perfectly, and then that should fall right into place nice and snug inside our flag. So just like before, we're going to save all of our tool paths. And now with this one, it will be, if you are doing a roughing cut, it will take 2 bit changes. That is why it's important to have your Z axis set to your machine bed. And that is something that, like I said, you don't have to do a roughing pass. If you're not doing a roughing pass, you'll only save the finishing cut and your cutout, and it will only be one tool change. But like I said, I just wanted to kind of show the difference in them and how it helps. So to me, it doesn't do a lot, but it is something some people use, so I figured I would show it. So just like before, you're going to save these one at a time, save tool path, and then for here, I like to create a secondary file inside and do 3D cuts. And this is going to be excuse me, let's do this. Sorry. Okay, there we go. You click your first cut, save your tool path, go into your 3D cuts. This is your end mill roughing cut. So this would be cut 1, save. Same thing for the next, which is going to be your finishing cut, cut 2, save, and then back to your 1/4 inch end mill for the actual cutout. Now again, you don't have to do the roughing cut, which would make this only a 1 bit change. You don't have to change the bit one time. But like I said, I thought this was a good way to show this and show the difference in the roughing cut and the finishing cut, as some people find it necessary or find that it helps with material removal, or if you're making this out of a really hard, dense wood, the roughing cut might help by removing a lot of the excess material that your small ball nose would have to go through. So there is everything. Let's jump on the machine and get to cutting. So there it is, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope it helps you out if you're trying to make something 3D for yourself. The more complicated your photo or your JPEG or whatever you're using to create your 3D file from, the little more work it's going to be to get everything just right. Don't be afraid to play with the software and kind of just figure it out. That's what the 3D rendering model is for, is to make sure that it's going to come out looking the way you want it to look. So with that being said, I really want to thank i2rCNC. Like I said before, guys, go check them out. I love my machine. I use it for so much. Let them know I sent you, and just have some fun. Build some stuff. Let me know what you build. I'd love to see it. You can also check me out on Instagram at jpainwoodworking, and there I have kind of more videos and more daily photos and things like that, so you can kind of see what's going on in the shop and keep up with what's going on here. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit the notification bell so you can see all the videos coming out. There's about to be a lot more content pumped out here real soon. I'm gonna start just kind of throwing content out there and having a little fun with it. So that's going to be something to look forward to. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you can see those videos. If you want to support this channel and help me keep making these cool videos and cool projects and tutorials, tool reviews, whatever, for one, let me know in the comments what you would like to see. And beyond that, you can go to jpainwoodworking.com/shop and check out some of the gear, some of the shirts, hats, a few other products. Some of the custom built stuff I make for these videos will be up on the website. So go check that out. All of your support is much appreciated. These videos can be very time consuming and pretty expensive to make. So I hope it helps you guys out, and I really appreciate the support. So that being said, guys, I am going to get in here and warm up, and I will see you on the next one. Later.